Grupuzo for his one-man show called The Face Behind the Face Behind the Face.
That was a while back.
It was, I want to say three years ago, maybe 4 years ago.
Well, I remember, I mean, how long have you been doing your one-woman show?
Probably, well, it started out maybe about 12 years ago, 13, 14 years ago, but it wasn't the show that I'm, like, it's still the Italian in me, but it's not the show I'm doing today.
Oh, no?
But it's still the Italian. I mean, I've improved it. I've grown it. It's grown so much that I feel like what I did originally was like a baby.
Yeah, I understand that.
Now it's a full-blown college. Now it's a full-blown college student that has graduated and gone on out into the world. I'm very proud of it. I'm just upset that we can't be performing or doing anything, because I was scheduled to do it May 2nd. We were having a big party to celebrate Fellini's 100th birthday. If he had been alive, he would have been 100 this year. So we were doing a big celebration, and because my show has a big part of it is about Fellini, we were going to do a big celebration and have a cake, and it was a big deal. And of course, as you know, we're not doing it. So
what a loss, but he left a lot of great work.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, his style of directing and a lot of it was so real. Fellini and them, you know, they just believed in realism, like Anna Magnani, you know.
Realism and raw. It was just
raw.
It was so raw. I mean, it's so funny because I look at those films and I think some of the stuff they did and some of the, you know, like you think of his brain of what he was thinking about. It was almost like he talks about his dreams a lot, and almost like his dreams were being played out in cinema. Because you know how when you have a dream, I don't know if this happens to you, but it doesn't make any sense sometimes. And you're like, well, I was here and I was there, and then this angel came down, and then this little dog was there and he ran away and I chased him, and all of a sudden we were in a castle. Sometimes I feel like Fellini's films are like dreams, and he talks a lot about, you know, his dreams. But when I look at some of those and I think of how just raw and pure they were, I just don't know if, like today, there's a lot of people that wouldn't want to be seen that way.
True.
You know, especially women.
Right, they want to be movie stars.
They want to be movie stars, or they want to look a certain way or have their face, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a glamour look where.
The glamour, that's one of the things I like about him, is that it was glamorous without it being fake.
Anna was that way, you know, Mangani. I watched her all the time. She was an inspiration. I tell young actors, if you want to know what acting is about, watch her work.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
If you can get somewhere near that, you're doing great.
She's definitely the rawest, purest form of acting.
Beautiful woman. I fell in love with her in the Rosette too, when she had a black full slip. I was a young lad, and I was just mesmerized. The first play I did was Office Ascending, The Fugitive Kind, when she did that. I did that in 1967. Remember the snakeskin jacket?
Well, it's interesting because Anna Magnani is, when you think of an Italian woman, a lot of people think of Gina Lollobrigida, they think of Sofia Loren, they're Italian women, or Monica Bellucci. And really, Anna Magnani is like the Italian woman.
Is, yes, the real.
Like, she is the Italian woman. I don't know how to explain it. Like when I think of an Italian woman, I think obviously those other three women are absolutely beautiful women, but I look at them more as like beautiful in a statue way, sort of a way. Anna Magnani was just Italian, like the way I see my aunts, my relatives, you know, the ladies that I know that are Italian, that are part of family. And that's how I see the lady that's, you know, just the neighbor. That's how I see Anna Magnani. And then she could also look beautiful and glamorous, but she was just real.
Real, yes. I never, there wasn't a fake moment in her work, you know, and your play. Tell us a little bit about your play, what it's about.
Okay, so the Italian in me came to me obviously from my experience of living in Rome, living in Italy, and trying to work in the film business. So it is the story of a young girl who moves to Rome and tries to make this happen, but it's not the glamour she thought it was going to be. So it's a lot of praying to saints and angels and anybody who will come to her rescue to help her, you know, on this journey, on this path. And it doesn't quite happen. So it's about trying and failing. And this is part of our industry, is that you try and you fail, you try and you fail, you try, but you're still trying. And eventually she has a chance to meet Federico Fellini. And she does. And the Federico Fellini, the whole play is based on my life, but there are obviously just like a 20% of it is, you know, created and embellished. But the part of her meeting Federico Fellini really changes her life, because she meets the maestro of all maestros. And it's at a time where he was not, to a lot of Italians, he was no longer considered the big star, because he was at an age in his life where he was being asked to direct a commercial. Yeah. And to a person like Fellini at the time, it was like the biggest insult. Yeah. Like, I'm Federico Fellini, you know? And so I had the fortune of being called in for this audition. And I went in to see him, and he became a person in that room. I witnessed something of a maestro, of a genius artist. I witnessed something in that room that shocked me. It wasn't the maestro that I thought I was going to meet. It wasn't the person that you think, oh, this guy's going to have all kinds of airs about himself that he is. I went in the room and I found this humble, modest, self-deprecating person with a sense of humor, who was a little bit, he was sad because he was feeling old, that his age had gotten to him and that people no longer wanted him. Producers were no longer giving him money. And here he was directing a commercial that he said he didn't even want to be doing. And suddenly I found myself going in, you know, all decked out for this audition, ended up being just an interview. And when we sat down to talk, the room was about, you know, this big. And when we finally this was at Cinecittà Studios. And when we finally sat down to talk, he just became this person. I didn't feel that he was like this person, you know, like the maestro. There was no arrogance. And he just suddenly became this guy. And he would talk to me like, and he revealed all this stuff to me that who was I? Like, I was nobody. And he suddenly started revealing all of his personal feelings, how he felt about the commercial, how he felt about the people that were no longer hiring anymore because his last movie didn't make any money. And I thought, oh my God, like, what? Like, I'm in here with the maestro and he's talking to me like a real person. And I think that's why my piece, especially the Fellini section, which is the centerpiece, I think that's why it works so well and why it resonates so well with people, because I take them on a journey of an artist trying to make it. And this door gets slapped in her face. And then she goes to the church and prays to this saint for the saint of whatever. And then the next thing goes really bad. And then she goes to church and prays again. And so you see the life of an artist just trying to get in the door. And then when you're about to get in the door, and you kind of think you're getting in the door because Fellini wants to meet you, you sit in a room with him and you realize that at 73, he's like this at his level. He had just won an Oscar let me just say this. He had just won his Lifetime Achievement Award in March at the Oscars. And this happened in July of the same year. So here he was talking like this, you know, like, oh, you know, whatever, even I don't want to be doing this commercial that they asked me to do, you know, but nobody's giving me money. And I thought, oh my gosh, here he is. He's like at a whole different level in his life as an artist. And he's going through this. And it's not just in the arts, you know. So he just kept, he said, you know, maybe I'm not good enough anymore. Maybe I'm too old. Maybe they don't want, you know. And I'm thinking everybody deals with this. And I was witnessing it firsthand with the person that to me was like la creme de la creme with the cherry on top. And so the centerpiece of the show is that interaction of me playing myself and playing Fellini in our encounter at Cinecittà. So it's very real. It's all grounded in reality of how, basically verbatim of how the conversation went. And then when he dies a few months later, because he died a few months later after that encounter, I never got to work with him. Even after he cast me in a 6-part miniseries in that meeting, he asked me to be in a 6-part miniseries that he was doing, and that the commercial he was directing had already been previously cast. And our encounter was not for the commercial, which is very interesting. The encounter was for a 6-part miniseries for Rai Television, but he had already cast, the commercial had already been cast. Somebody else was sort of in on it, like the producers and stuff, you know how that can happen. And he was secretly conducting interviews for his 6-part miniseries for Rai Television. So when I got the call to go for the commercial, it was a front, but it was really for the series, because whenever people knew that Fellini was doing something, they would line up at Cinecittà to go see him, just to get their foot in the door. Agents were, you know, harassing him. So I had this interview for, which I didn't know until the end of our meeting, that that's what it was for. And he gave me a bit of advice when it was all said and done, that he was basically this, you're not here for the commercial. And he said, but when you work for me, I want you to be just like you are today when you're talking to me. No acting, okay? So what do we want to achieve as actors? We were talking about Anna Magnani. You don't want to see her acting. You want to see her be real, you know? And that's what gets you, is when somebody's real, you don't know if that's really the person or if they're, you know, if it's the character. And I think that when he said that, it was like, that's why, brings us to what we were saying early on about his films being real and raw, is him saying that to me, Fellini saying that to me. I realized that's what he was getting from all the people in his movies. They're just to be real, just to be, you know, let it out, just, you know, who you are. And then just to finish the play, it ends in the 3rd act. It's a 1-person show. It's an hour and 15 minutes, but the 3rd act, she basically does a full circle. She leaves North America, goes to Rome, and then comes back to North America and ends up in the United States. And I have her going to New York. I came to LA, but that's where I sort of veer off into a little bit of fiction, where I made her come to LA. And I used my experience of being in Los Angeles when I first got here, of how difficult it was for me being a blonde, blue-eyed, 100% pure blood Italian, and not being able to be cast in anything because I couldn't be Italian. Managers told me to change my name, and a manager told me, a top manager that didn't take me on, told me that I had to change my name and that I had to take all my Italian credits off my resume because it was confusing people.
Really?
Because I said, but I worked in Italy. I don't have credits in Los Angeles. So that means I would have a resume with nothing on it in the States. And he goes, yeah, but it's better that way because all these Italian credits, they're confusing people. You know, when they read Italy, you know, Italian, and then they look at you, you don't look Italian. So you're not going to be, no one's going to cast you as an Italian. So just take everything off your resume and change your name. And I heard this a few times. And so I got very frustrated, and I was like many performers where we question and doubt, do I cut my hair? Do I dye my hair? Do I get a boob job? Do I do this to my lips? Do I change my name? Like, what do I do? And I ended up just staying the way I was. And part of it was because I said to myself, if I was good enough for Fellini, I'm good enough for anybody or anything. So if that guy wants me to change, I'm sorry, what would Fellini think? And what would Fellini say? And his lines to me were basically that. And I'll tell you one more thing about the Fellini encounter, which adds to this. When I went in to see Fellini, I thought I was auditioning for, the character description was a blonde in a tree. That's all the description was.
Really?
So you think, you're in your 20s and you put on your tight little dress and you do your thing and you get all little high heels and you go to Cinecittà and you're going to meet Fellini because you're going to be the blonde in the tree. So you think that it's that, Brigitte Bardot in the tree. And when I got there, the lobby was full of girls and women, girls, whatever, and they were all decked out. They were all like beautiful and sexy, and everybody was Italian and voluptuous. Everybody looked, the way they look. And I walked in and I went up to his, at the time, assistant secretary, Fiammetta, and I said, Dina Morrone, I'm checking in. And she says, yes, just have a seat for a minute. And I sat down and the door opened and Federico Fellini came out of his office. And he said, she said, Signora Dina Morrone, and he went like this, like, venga, like, come here. And I looked around and I thought, oh, I just got here. And there's all these women in the lobby that were here before me because I was punctual, but I got there just like 5 minutes before. And I looked and I said, do they not have to go in? And the secretary went, no. And so he said, so I said, oh, I'm sorry, there are all these people. He goes, they don't have an interview. They just showed up thinking that if I have time, I'll see them. You have an interview, they don't. So people this is what I'm telling you, if people knew that he was doing something, they would find a way to get on the lot, to get in the door, to go see them. Or their agents would say, just go. If he has time, he'll see you. I don't know how much time he had because he spent over an hour with me. So, but anyway, getting to the point about the managers telling me to change when I got here, I went in looking glam, thinking I was auditioning for that part. While I sat there, and I brought my portfolio of pictures, and I sat there, I noticed he had a picture on his desk of me. And it was in the midst of all this mess that was papers and books and just, it wasn't his office. This was a temporary office at Cinecittà. It was just a tiny little thing. So I was sitting there and I looked, I said, oh my gosh, you have this terrible picture of me on your desk. I can't believe my agent sent you that picture. And the picture was basically this. I had like this hair, glasses, and I was like this, basically, a lot younger, but that was what I looked like. And so I was like, ooh, why does he have that ugly picture? Like, that was just a shot I did so I could have a business look for commercials for my agent. So it's not something I put out there to anybody. It was just, put this in your drawer. If they ever don't believe that I can look that way, let them see it. And, but when my agent went to see Federico Fellini with her book of pictures, because back in the day, not anymore, back in the day, they used to bring books of all their clients and pictures were inside there, like a photo album. And the directors would just flip through these books and take this, and they would take the picture they wanted, the clients they wanted to see. So they would go through the binder and they would take the picture out, put it down, take the picture out, put it down of the next client. So he took the picture of me with my hair up. I didn't know this at the time. I thought my agent did this to me. So I tried to get out of this and I said, look, I brought my portfolio of pictures. Like, I don't know what you're doing with that ugly picture. I brought this portfolio of pictures that have so many better, way more glamorous pictures. And he looked at me and he said, why do I want to see more pictures? I'm looking at you in person. And I'm like, well, because they're beautiful, they're glamorous. And he said, so he took my book. He did me a favor. He didn't want to look at them at all. He started looking at the pictures and he was just bored. And then he closed the book and he said, you know, I see a lovely girl in these pictures, but that's all she is she's a beautiful, lovely girl. But in this one here, and he pulls the picture from his desk, in this one, I see a person. I see a thought. I see a thought process. I wonder what she's thinking, what she's feeling. Is she sad? Is she hurt? What is she thinking about? What is she planning? Is she thinking about her lover? What is she planning to do next? And I went, oh, okay, really? And so he basically was telling me that the glam was all fine in the pictures, but that's not real. That's not who you really are. And so when these people were telling me, you know, do this, change that, I'm like, I'm just going to be who I am. I'm not changing anything. So if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And that's when I started writing this one woman show. And so getting back to the third act, the character is basically auditioning for something and they want a real Italian. And she's, you know, she realizes she's not a real, I'm sorry, I have some workers in the house and they're pounding on a wall. But she realizes that she's not what they're looking for because they're looking for a Demi Moore type. They're looking for somebody who looks like, you know, Julia Roberts, who are not Italian, but that's what they're looking for their role. And that's not who I am, even though I'm really an Italian. So the whole play comes full circle from the time she leaves, she ends up, you know, going full circle and going back to her beginning and just being who she was before she thought she had to be all of that to make it. So I basically told you the whole show.
It was wonderful. I mean, it's so true today. I mean, Fellini he had the imagination. Today, casting producers, they don't have the imagination. Like you said, you're Italian, but you don't look Italian. Same thing with me. You know, I'm Italian. I don't look Italian.
Yeah.
Right? And in gangster parts, they don't know that. You know, I read for the movie Attica. I went up there and the girl told me, "You're not the type." I said, "But I was there." You know. I said, "What do you mean I'm not the type? I was there. I was in Attica." It's amazing. I mean, the imagination. And the same, they wanted me to change my name. They said, to John Lawrence. I said, no, I'm Italian. And, you know, John Solari is my name.
But your name is interesting because it can be Italian. And to a person who doesn't think it's Italian, it can be something else. But like, obviously, when you dissect it, it's Italian. Right. You know, it's an Italian name. But I could see people not thinking it's Italian. When I was growing up,
I don't look Italian, they said.
But you look Italian to me because I'm Italian and I've lived in Italy and I have relatives that look like you. So I know that you look Italian.
My family came from Genoa. That's where I had the blonde hair.
From northern, yeah. Mine came from Calabria. So I'm technically, that's where a lot more darker you are. But there's such a huge population of blondes and blue eyes in Calabria. But Genova, yeah, you would think, you know, northern Italy. But you have blue eyes, don't you, John?
Yes, blue eyes.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. So we definitely look like we're related, actually. But no, the whole Italian thing is very funny. That's why I created my one woman show, and that's why it's called The Italian in Me. And I love performing it. I'm very sad that this year I didn't get to do the show at all because we had all these shows, performances lined up, and I was actually taking it for the very first time. I was going to go to New York and I was just finalizing something around like just to get like a small little intimate theater. And it's just, the timing of it is so crazy that this happened and I wasn't able to fulfill that. And
what about Zoom? Can you do it on Zoom? Can you do
I have an amazing professional recording with 3-camera shoot that was professionally edited. And one of the things I don't like about it is that every time I do the show, it grows.
Yeah.
And this last time I did it, I added some stuff that just took it over the edge.
Yeah.
And I didn't record it.
Oh, really?
Because I figured, well, I'll be doing it again real soon. So I didn't think, none of us thought the pandemic was going to happen. So I thought, oh, I'll be doing it real soon. I'll bring in, we had actually planned to bring in, we were going to rent the theater in LA, and we were going to light it professionally so that, and when you record a theater piece, you're still always dealing with theater lighting.
Right.
And you walk into dark spaces and you can't really hear what the person's saying. So we were going to have, get it directed and lit properly as if we were filming a special for HBO, like a comedy special. We were going to do that. And then we were going to edit it. And so then I would have, I wanted to have a live audience, but the problem with a live audience, I'd have to then mic myself, because the problem with my recording I have now, which is wonderful, that there are sometimes the audience is laughing so loudly that I wasn't body mic'd, that you can't hear the actress giving the punchline. And so, and unfortunately, I mean, that's a good problem to have, but we didn't get a chance to do it the way I wanted to record it, but it still looks great. It could go out there.
It sounds like you become a very good director, in a sense.
Well, what's interesting is that Peter Flood, Peter Flood.
Yeah, I was thinking of him because they have the smartphone theater. That's
yeah,
what you mentioned.
And Peter Flood has been my director for years. And Peter Flood directed me in The Italian in Me. And the show was developed with Peter Flood. And prior to that, it started out, before it was The Italian in Me, with a woman named Deborah Lemon. She now has an actor's studio for young children and young adults. But we started workshopping it with Deborah, who did a wonderful job. And then Peter came on board when it became The Italian in Me. And Peter directed it wonderfully, brilliantly. And I work by myself, though, before I'm about to remount a show. Over the years, I've called Peter in and said, just sit in the audience, just sit there and just watch my show. And give me notes of things that you think I need to work on. And Peter did. And then at a certain point, these last couple of years, I just go to Theater West, which is my theater home. Theater West is on Cahuenga Boulevard. And it's my theater home. I'm a member there. And I go in the mornings. And I'm a night owl, so it kills me. But the theater's empty. It's quiet. There's just peace. And I'm the only one there. And I turn off all the lights. I put the work lights on. And I go on stage and I work on my show by myself. And I just keep working it by myself. And I just keep going through the motions. And I relive all these moments in Italy. So it's not like working on my show. It's like, I'm going to Italy today. I'm going to be in Rome. So I work on the show together. And sometimes I'll be working on it alone and I just start crying in the middle of a scene. I have a breakdown. And it's a breakthrough and a breakdown at the same time. And I remember Peter used to say to me, those are breakthroughs. Just if that happens, just go with it.
Yes.
And don't say, oh, why am I getting all emotional here that I'm thinking about that time I was in the park? Just do it. And then sometimes I have to just break down and cry and then go have a sip of coffee and then pick it up again. Or I work right through the tears and just keep doing it. And I found that working by myself in a pitch black theater where I turn off the audience lights and I just work by myself and I can hear what's right and what's wrong. And and I can hear maybe where there's a sentence missing that I should add there. Wow, I've been doing this for all these years and I never thought that I needed anything there before. Oh my gosh, you know what? I'm going to add that line. And suddenly the play grows and develops all by myself. So when you said that about directing, you kind of do self-direct. You do self-direct when you're doing a one-person show, because you can't have your director there every time you're about to mount your show for another performance for, you know, somebody asks you to do the show. So, but Peter is the guy. He is the guy who took this show and really worked with me to get it to where it needs to be. And he wrote something for me on opening night that is a piece of paper that I treasure. It's in a piece of plastic. And he wrote something in there about my show and basically about telling my story and pushing my story out there. I mean, what you're really doing is you're telling a story. You're telling your story. And because it's yours, you have to be real in your story. There's no faking.
No faking.
You know? Yeah. But Peter also directed my 12-person play called Moose on the Loose. And it's a comedy about an Italian family and a Canadian moose. And it was supposed to have a reboot October 2nd, 2020. It was supposed to be open this month. And it's 12 actors, the grandparents, the parents, the 4 children born in North America and Canada, and the 1 great-grandchild. And then it's about the immigrant experience of coming to Canada and having your 4 grown children born and raised in Canada, and the changes in cultural differences. It doesn't apply to Italians, it applies to everybody. And at some point, everyone's parents or grandparents came over. This one's told through the family, an Italian family that came over in the early 60s. So it was like really the last wave of immigration in Canada. And then the immigration wave stopped because the work was what it was. So it's a hilarious comedy, not because I wrote it. It's very funny. And it was a huge success at Theater West. And after 9 years, we were doing a reboot of it. And it was already fully cast. And I'd already been working with marketing. And the pandemic happened. So hopefully when we're back in the theaters, maybe by October 2021, a year later.
Maybe before that. After the election, I got a feeling we're going to get back.
Well, I hope that, here's how I feel, John. I don't know if you feel this way about the whole theater situation. I've shared this with a lot of people because they keep saying Broadway's dark.
Yes.
Broadway's dark. But we're not Broadway. We're LA. And the reason Broadway is dark, in my opinion, is because it has to be dark if there's a pandemic going on, because the theaters and the people and the restaurants and the cafes are all concentrated in this tiny little section. But what would the problem be if I did a show at Theater West? We have 165 seats. Let's say we invited 50 people. You know, in LA, if you can get 50 people to see your play in a small theater, you're doing good. So
you got a big house.
You got a full house in some theaters. So I could say, well, what would the problem be if we got 50 people at Theater West, we socially distanced them, they all wore masks, and we had like a glass partition on the stage so that people we wouldn't let anyone sit in the front row. You would have to start maybe in the 3rd row, give yourself that distance, and make sure that, then the play could go on. I don't understand why we couldn't do it. It's not like New York, where when you open Broadway, you're not just opening theaters, you're opening theaters with people concentrated in a tiny little section of New York. And that involves restaurants, dining, cafes, shopping, taxis, everything. So I can understand why Broadway is dark, but not LA.
4 or 5 block area.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
And then not to mention the people that live there that have to go grocery shopping. So we don't have that in LA. You go down to any small theater in LA, it's the only theater in the neighborhood. And you park your car and you walk there. Yeah. So anyway, I'm hoping that LA doesn't have to follow the same rules and guidelines of New York. Obviously, I want everybody to be safe, but I hope we open sooner.
I think so. I think after the election, things are going to start to open up, I hope.
Hopefully. I mean, we've got to get back to some kind of normalcy with theater because it's hurting all the artists.
It really, yeah. I want to get back to Rome for a minute. When you lived in Rome, did you know Lydia Vitali? Because she does a woman show about.
I met Lydia Vitali here at a birthday party.
Oh, because I brought her to Actors Studio.
You know? Yeah, I met Lydia here. She had come here to work here, to be here. And as every Italian that comes here from Italy, like myself, it's not easy when you get here. You know, but Lydia went back to Italy and she's killing it.
Great. Her and her daughter are doing great.
She's
working all the time.
She is a terrific actress.
Yeah, she has a lot of Anna in her. She plays Anna, but she has a lot of Anna in her.
I think it's a 2-person show. I'm not sure if it's a 1
No, it's 1 person.
It is 1 person?
1 person. Because
originally it was written as a 2-person show when I remember seeing it back in the day with another actress performing it. But it was originally, the play was originally written by somebody from New York. And the original production I saw of it was at the Theater Botanicum, and it was with an actress named Lucia Marano and an actor.
Andy Salvo did it too.
Yes, and then Annie did it. And then I remember Lydia was doing it, and she's just doing amazing. She's an incredible actress.
Yeah, her and her daughter Blue. You know,
her daughter's also incredibly talented.
Yes, yes. Yeah, they both came here. I got her into Actors Studio and, as an observer, which was really great. But you're right. She's better off in Italy. It was,
There's so much work there for her. There could be work here in LA, but listen, with Lydia's the same. Lydia in LA, I hate to say this, but the casting people wouldn't think she's Italian enough.
Yeah.
No, look at Lydia. Yeah. Look at Lydia.
Yeah.
Just look at her. Like, she doesn't look like, do you know what I mean? She's so beautiful, and she's so Anna Magnani.
Anna Magnani, yes,
she is. That I can see the North American casting thinking, well, she's not Italian enough. Yeah. She has to look more like,
like Sophia.
Yeah, like Sophia, like that's what they're looking for.
And you, the blonde at Verna Lisi, I was thinking when I was looking at you.
Yeah, there's the Verna Lisi. There is also Monica Vitti. Monica Vitti did a lot of films in Italy. She was blonde with bangs.
My favorite was Silvia Mangano, which is
and Celia, also.
That's Dino De Laurentiis. She was married to Dino De Laurentiis.
Married to Dino, yeah. Actually, she had a look where you would also go, well, she doesn't look like the stereotypical Italian. Mm-hmm. So we have the idea of the Italian that is ingrained in everybody's casting brain as the Italian. I have a great story for you. So years ago, I had just moved back from Italy. I had just, come back, and I was in Canada for a few months, and I had an audition for a show. And my agent said, it's perfect for you. You're the sister of the mobster. And I said, stop right there. They're not going to cast me. He's like, no. They're looking for like somebody who's really like Italian. I said, I'm not going to get cast in it. Just know that. So he said, no, you're perfect for it. I read it. And so he sends me the stuff. I memorize the thing. I go in for the audition. And the casting director, who'd been around for a long time, was in the room, and the young junior assistant was there. I sit down, and she says, so you just moved here from Italy? I said, yes, I moved back to North America. I was living and working in Rome for many years. And we started talking about my life there and a chit chat back and forth. And so the young assistant says, because the casting director was like, well, you don't really look Italian, And the junior assistant, who learned probably never to open her mouth again, says, I watch a lot of Italian television, and Rye, and there's a lot of hosts and act, you know, on this TV show that are blonde with blue eyes and they look just like you. And the casting director just glared over at her like this, like that, you know, like, anyway, she was done with me, the casting director. Like, she knew I was not right for the part, but my agent, I found out later, insisted that she see me. She's like, he's like, how can you not see her? She's Italian. She worked on Italian TV. She's Italian. She can play the sister of the mobster. And so, of course, the audition went, and then I never got the part. And the show came out, and they cast an Irish actress with black hair and green eyes who was in The Matrix, called Carrie Ann Moss. Beautiful. She's tall. She's got dark hair, and she's got green eyes. She's not Italian.
I know. Yeah,
the guy was Italian. The guy, the mobster brother, was Italian. And I thought, you know, I could put a dark wig on. I could put a dark wig. My hair was, you know, was long at the time. I could still look like that. And then, of course, The Sopranos came out. Edie Falco, you know, blonde. You know what I mean? And suddenly you're seeing the Desperate Housewives of wherever, New York or New Jersey. They're blonde Italians there, but, you know, this was before all of that. Before, yeah. And I was just supposed to be the, you know, the young sister. So the casting bubble of that is still, you got to look a certain way to play that Italian role.
Yeah, it's a shame, you know, how we can get agitated just thinking about it when you go for some of these things, you know. I mean, really, it really is. It's a shame, but what a gift you got to come on the show and talk like this. And
thank you, John.
What do you? I mean, Theater West. I do know Theater West. There's a lot of members there. The Actors Studio belong to that. Years ago, I belonged to Theater East.
They closed down like what, 10 years ago?
Oh yeah, they used to be above Jerry's, and now I hear Jerry's closed.
Well, we have we're on our 57th year. I'm on the artistic board of Theater West, and as all you know, all theaters are really hurting, and so we're doing everything we can to keep Theater West alive. We have a lot of people whose legacy memories, you know, Betty Garrett, Carol O'Connor, the Bridges family, that are big people, you know, Naomi Carroll and the Van Pattens. There's all kinds of people, all kinds of history connected to this theater. Lee Merriweather, who's still a member. And we have this wonderful history that we just don't want to see it go away. They started, it was a bunch of New York actors. Who got together in a home and said, we got a workshop. We're from New York. We got to recreate that feeling here in Hollywood. And they did. They created their workout home, and then they ended up moving into a theater. And then eventually they moved into the location we're at now, Theater West on Cahuenga. And it's been running all these years. And Betty Garrett taught there until she passed. And, you know, we still have our workshops. Every Monday night is our acting workshop. Tuesday nights is our writers workshop.
You still have it?
We still have on Zoom every Tuesday. Every
Zoom.
Monday night we have our acting workshop. Every Tuesday night we have our writers, which is the most popular one now because everybody can read their plays on Zoom. We have musical comedy, which is the one Betty Garrett taught. That's on Wednesday nights. And then on Thursday nights, we have Shakespeare, and that's become so hugely popular. Our moderator is Nick McDowell, and he's a member, and he's an incredible Shakespeare moderator. And so he does that on Thursday night. We have a lot of people showing up for that. But our writers Tuesday night is really very popular because people are writing a lot of 10-minute plays for 10-minute Zoom festivals that are happening all over town, virtual entertainment, and people are still writing full-length plays. So we're very busy. This year we had one of our busiest seasons lined up. We opened and closed a show in 2 days in March. It opened when we were told we were locking, you know, there was going to be a lockdown on March the 13th, and we closed 2 days later. And it was a terrific play written by Mark Wilding. He's a writer, a TV writer, and wrote this play at Theater West. He's a member, longtime member, called Our Man in Santiago. and it was really wonderful. And it never got a chance because it just performed twice. So we were lined up to do that show. Then we were going to have Much Ado, a Shakespeare, for 3 weeks. Then we were going to have a series of solo shows. We were going to do Moose on the Loose for a 6-week run, my play. And we were going to do Classic Couples Counseling, written by Lord Schwartz. It's these classic couples, picture Shakespearean classic couples that go to present day therapy. So the therapist is played present day, but the characters are Shakespearean. So Romeo and Juliet go to counseling. It's hilarious. And it was scheduled to be in January. And then after that, we were going to do a reading festival, full-length reading festival. And that's where we were going to pop in the solo shows at that point there. And so we had a whole entire year of plays and shows lined up, like everybody else. We're dark.
Do people have to audition to get in?
Yeah, people have to audition for writers. They submit a play and 3 people from Theatre West read it and evaluate it. And people audition with a monologue, a song, however they want to get in. The one we are working on right now, diversity and inclusion, because we feel like we want to open up the doors. We've tried this for many years, and you know, we've been pushing it the last 3, just to hear different stories, hear people from different cultures and different worlds, just, you know, having that available to us at Theatre West, which we find is very important. So we have an incredible diversity committee at Theatre West, and we're going sort of into like 2021 with a whole new perspective.
You do take singers, because I have actually, I don't want to mess up her name. She's from Japan. She sings jazz and blues, and she's also an actor. And I was thinking about her, and I'll get her to get in touch with you.
We're always looking for people who can sing, because one of the things we're doing during the pandemic, we've realized is we want to do a cabaret type show on Zoom. And we're always looking for good singers. We have some really good singers at Theatre West. We can always use good singers, because one of the areas that I find that, you know, it's hard to mount a full, like we had a reading, a musical play reading, and we did bring in some people from outside the theater, because it's difficult to fill some of the slots in if you don't have the right age or a certain talent.
Her name is Toko, the first name. I'll have her get in touch with you.
Yeah.
On Facebook or whatever.
Yeah, we're always looking for new members, and we're looking for, you know, stories, people to tell us stories.
I got her the book, Uta Hagen's book, A Challenge to the Actor. Yeah. And I have her read it. It's one of the best books out there on acting, really.
I have that book in my office.
Oh, read it. Isn't it great? So, you know, I'm looking at you, and you remind me so much of Salome Jens.
Oh my God, everybody tells me. I've been told that before.
I'm looking at you now, you know, that's what you, and I kept seeing Salome. She said that was the best book on acting ever written.
Yeah.
But Salome is the artistic director, along with Lou Antonio at the Actors Studio now.
Yeah.
But people do tell you that, huh?
Yeah, I've been told that before, and I can't remember, it's more than once.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there, I just keep thinking of Salome. I'm going to send her a copy of this show to her.
I really wish we could all get back to doing theater right now. It's just been way too long. I mean, people are doing it with their streaming. They're doing solo shows, streaming them. And that's a way to go. But I really love the live audience and holding for laughs and feeling that the audience is feeling what you're doing. It's not like anything else. It's just
true. You like own the audience at times. I know when I've been working on Eugene O'Neill's Huey, and there's times when I know I can make the audience do anything I want. You know, they're so with you, you know, and no matter what you do, they're going to follow you. It's the greatest feeling, and that's what acting is really about.
I know. And
you're in that zone.
You miss. I went to Theatre West 2 weeks ago because as I mentioned, I'm on the artistic board there, and we are basically running the theater right now. We don't have a managing or an executive director. So the artistic board, comprised of 7 people, we're keeping the theater going right now. We're volunteering, it's a lot. And I finally went to Theater West 2 weeks ago because I had to get some paperwork signed. And so I met up with a couple of other people from the board. And it was my first time going back since March the 13th. And, you know, we opened the door and you can smell the theater.
That smell.
And then I went in the theater, I got up on stage and I just stood there and I just looked around and I just like looked at all these empty chairs and saw all these people sitting there that, you know, were there once upon a time. And I looked around at the safe space of where you create and you go into your little characters and your big characters and you become that person and you transport to, you know, wherever, and you take these people on a journey of where you are in that space that's just a black box. And there's nothing there but, you know, 2 chairs. And I stood there and I thought, I just tried to, you know, sense memory it. I just tried to recall really all of that in that moment. And I got so emotional. I started crying. I was like, oh, because you just feel like, you know, just your life is created up there and it's so different than your life in the real world. And so anyway, I just had this whole sense memory on stage, just smelling just the theater and the audience and feeling the heat and the, you know, that, and it was wonderful. I got sad for the rest of the day though.
Well, on that note, I really want to thank you. What a
thank you, John,
guest.
for doing this.
No, thank you. And okay.
I will say goodbye and be well, be safe, and we'll see you in the theater.
In the theater, my lovely. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Love you.